On the stairway to stardom, we'll entertain with talent and style. On the stairway to stardom, we've got the other shows beat by a mile. On the stairway to stardom, on the stairway to stardom.
Stairway to Stardom and All the King's Men. Who could have imagined that over 40 years after appearing on the show, clips of the band on YouTube would garner over 50,000 views? The All the King's Men story begins in the mid-1970s in Brooklyn, New York, at the newly minted John Dewey High School.
I had met Ben at John Dewey High School. Right away, I knew this kid was a musical genius.
My very first memory of Steve was when he was playing on campus. John Dewey High School had a beautiful campus, beautiful grounds, and Steve would be sitting out on the grass with his acoustic guitar, and he'd be singing Elvis songs. And let me tell you, half the school was sitting out there too. They were sitting out there listening to Steve and grooving with the music.
He could transpose songs without even thinking about it. And I knew this is the guy I needed to play behind me.
So at some point, Steve asked me to join his band. And he and I had done some shows around the school. I remember one big Elvis show for the NAACP. And Steve got up on stage and killed. He was amazing. He's always amazing, but he was amazing at this particular show. Steve asked me to join his band. And when I did, I met some really interesting musicians. Guitarist, bassist, drummer, and all of varying different degrees of technical expertise, let's say.
All the other musicians that we had, they would read music, but they didn't know how to do things as fast as he can do them. If I had to change the key to a song, with other members it would take weeks maybe before they can write out music for it. But Ben, in the matter of seconds, can change a key.
He had a bass player, for example, who could not play one correct note. Not one note in a song was right. But the dude would play and he was having a good time. He would play and he's dancing while the music's going. Every single note wrong. And I'm listening to this, and one day I said to Steve on the side, I said, why is he in the band? Why do you have him in the band? And Steve explained to me, he said, well, the dude has this huge amplifier, which he did, and we could all plug into the amplifier when we do these gigs. So we were basically using him for his sound system. And Steve further told me that we can turn his volume off on his bass. He'll never know the difference. And what we did is we turned the volume off, and I ended up playing bass with my left hand and the chords with my right hand. And I've been doing that forever and ever, but maybe that's how that started.
My brother used to play drums, but he was basically too young to do the gigs. So Sal ended up taking over on the drums.
I remember Steve used to come down to my block where I lived, and he used to have an acoustic guitar, strumming his guitar and playing Elvis songs. I just couldn't believe it, you know. When I heard it, I thought it was the best thing since sliced bread. And he just entertained people. People just couldn't stop listening to him. He was great.
He was a very good friend of mine. And we thought we would give him a shot. He had a set of drums, and when we started practicing with him, he picked up very quickly.
How it came about that I got into the band, one day I hired them for the block party on 63rd Street, all the King's Men. So they were practicing in my basement. The drummer did not show up, and they asked me to keep the tempo with my foot. Can you at least do that? I says, I'll try it. And I did, and that's how it started.
Now, Sal was a really good disco drummer, and that's because he would drive all over Bensonhurst with his car radio cranked up to 12, blasting with the windows open, and it was always disco music. And so you knew Sal was coming if you heard doom chicka doom chicka doom chicka doom chicka doom. That's how you knew, oh shoot, oh there we go, Sal's coming. So Sal really knew disco, but he didn't know a lot of the drum beats that we kind of needed to know, things like a waltz or a cha-cha. You know, we needed to be diverse. So I was the guy who taught Sal to play a lot of different drum beats because I used to play the drums for fun. And once I taught him something, he would lock it in, and that was it. He got it, you know? So if I showed him how to do a certain fill or a certain thing, he would work on it for a few seconds and then boom, he got it. So Sal was great.
As the band went on, different members had moved on. The guitar player had left, and that's where Lou came in.
We knew we needed a guitarist who could read music, and I knew the perfect guy, Lou. Lou and I were in the Dewey Jazz Ensemble together, and let me tell you, in the Dewey Jazz Ensemble, you had to read.
I met Ben through the jazz ensemble in John Dewey High School, and he was a piano player, probably one of the better musicians or a better piano player, because we had a few, and you know, we had a really good jazz ensemble, and we had a great teacher. His name was Mr. Gersten. I learned a lot from him. I think probably that was probably the only class I went to. And Mr. Gersten, our teacher, was fantastic. You know, he really, I mean, he called you out. I mean, he said, you know, play it, he pointed to me, he said, play an A flat major scale, you better play it.
We knew him also from John Dewey High School, and he could read music, which was a big plus for us. We needed somebody that could read. And that's how the band actually got started.
During the early years of the band, Steve and the boys took just about any gig they could get. From block parties to dive bars, any job that came their way was a chance to perform, make a few dollars, and grow musically. Eventually, steady gigs came along, and soon enough, the band was working one night a week, and sometimes even 2 or 3 nights a week as they started to build a following. Fans of their live show were always ready to be entertained, always eager to dance, and the boys didn't disappoint.
The Golden Gate Inn was the kind of place that you could rent a room for a night, or you could rent it for an hour. It was kind of seedy, if I'm going to be honest. It was a seedy hotel.
The Golden Gate Inn was known as a cheater's joint. The hotel was right there, very convenient, but it was classy. Sometimes you had ladies of the night used to go there, but it was a nice place. People were friendly.
We played in the lounge. We played in a bar lounge, and we had a ball. We played 3 nights a week. I remember this. We played 3 nights a week. We made $60 each per night.
It was like a no-tell, motel kind of situation where, you know, we played in the lounge at the bar, and it was also a restaurant, but it was attached to the hotel. So the idea was you danced, you met someone, and then you took them up to a room.
We would do our shows, and I would do all the characters that I would do, and I would change. They would give me a room, actually, so I could change my outfits and do Elvis and Neil Diamond and Tom Jones, and I would have a different outfit for everything. Let me tell you something, the people reacted unbelievably. I mean, I would be singing, walking through the crowd, and people would be shoving money and things into my pockets.
So I'll never forget when some old lady came up to me and said, Louis, do you want a shtup? And I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was there with my we always brought our girlfriends and stuff, and they would be playing like Pac-Man on the side and stuff. And
we had this one guy, in fact, who was friendly with us, and he was a little out there. This guy used to go onto the dance floor, and he would dance by himself and glide across the floor.
The Floater, the Golden Gate Inn. He used to smoke a little something, something. Before you know it, he was dancing all around the room. He would get everybody dancing. He was something.
He would move across the dance floor. I remember it like ballroom dancing. He would put one hand here and I guess he's pretending like he's dancing with somebody else, but he would sashay across the floor and across the back and forth and back and forth. And we're playing our music and we're all thinking in the band, holy crap, what's wrong with this dude?
The people were friendly. They loved the music. They danced like crazy.
And we had a great show. Steve, he would do Elvis Presley, and he would do Tom Jones, and who's the guy that does Love on the Rocks? I don't know. So yeah, but he had costumes for each set, and you come out as a different character, and he really, I mean, people loved it. And then, you know, after we did the show, we just danced them, and I think we played there for like 2 years.
One thing I'll remember about the Golden Gate probably for the rest of my life is I had a can of Coke, and I would drink, you know, we would get hot and sweaty playing all the disco music and the fast stuff and everybody's dancing. So, you know, you take a drink or something. Anyway, Sal, who's not far from me playing the drums, he tells me one night, he goes, "Is that your can of Coke?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Listen, don't drink from it. I just put my cigarette ashes in it." He would smoke on the bandstand cigarettes. But anyway, he tapped his cigarette, he used it as an ashtray. He used the Coke can as an ashtray, and he specifically said, "Don't drink from it."
I needed to put out the ashes of my cigarette, and I asked Ben, I says, "Ben, any of these bottles here are empty or anything?" He says, "Use the Coke bottle."
Of course, a couple minutes later, I totally forgot and took a huge swig of this Coke, my mouth full of cigarette ashes, and spitting it out, still trying to play, you know, just trying to play the music while I'm like dying and choking. But I will remember that taste of delicious Coke and disgusting cigarette ash for the rest of my life.
We had a great time there. Sometimes I think I enjoyed the party more than the gigs.
Stairway to Stardom gave all the King's men the opportunity to appear on television. Now, what could be better than that? It may only have been public access TV, not exactly CBS, NBC, or ABC, but still pretty cool, right?
When we booked Stairway to Stardom, none of us had ever seen the show. Now keep in mind, this is in the days before cable TV as we know it. And back then this was on Manhattan cable, public access TV, and we all lived in Brooklyn. So none of us in the band had ever seen the show.
I remember going there with Stevie. It was a nice studio we were in. I remember doing Coming to America and a couple of different songs, the original. Don't remember too much about it.
There was nowhere to fix your hair or whatnot. It was a rainy day. And that's why my hair was all frizzed up on that occasion. And they had us go. It was in a little parking lot. It was a small place. I remember us walking in, and the place was crowded to the gills with all kinds of performers, dancing and singing and doing this and that.
We didn't start first. There was a couple of acts before us, and I remember thinking, oh my God, why am I even here?
I was 20 years old at the time. So this was our shot. I mean, we were looking forward to it.
So the first appearance on Stairway to Stardom was jaw-dropping. I will admit it, it was jaw-dropping. It started with Frank Massey singing his theme song, which was this rumba that sounded like from the 1940s. And he's singing it with all his heart. And now keep in mind, we're like 20-year-olds and we're listening to music that our grandfathers maybe listened to back in the day. And we're already from the very jump, we're like, what is this show? Wait a second.
It was nothing like our music at all. It was like, we were playing like America, from Neil Diamond and some rock stuff and and here we are, and they had like, someone singing, oh God, this guy Jimmy, he comes to mind. Something like smoke it's in your eyes.
Then at some point, Gloria Huddle came out and did some kind of spoken thing to a Manhattan Transfer song, Operator.
We were probably a second-rate band. We were just kids at the time, but some of this talent in the show were like, oh God. And they had like this house band that, I don't know, they had cobwebs on them or something.
Stairway to Stardom was a nice little show. It was a talent show done by Frank Massey. He wanted a show that wasn't a competition, that people that normally would not have the opportunity could go on and get themselves exposure and get on TV.
And then All the King's Men, we came out, we did our couple of songs, and that was all kind of fun and nice. And then we had a little interview with Frank Massey and his wife. Perfect, it was great. But I do remember coming home that day and thinking, I need to write a theme song for this show. I need to write something that's current and hip and exciting. And keep in mind, we're talking the early 1980s. Disco was through the roof. So that's kind of where my idea for writing a theme song came from.
We were to meet up with Frank Massey the next day to get the tape of the first show that we had never seen. Well, Ben came up with a great idea to write and record a new theme song. The night before we were going to see him, we went to Ben's apartment, and right in his living room, we recorded Stairway to Stardom.
On one of our appearances on the show, Frank Massey came over to me off camera and he said, Ben, what made you want to write a theme song for my show? Well, I thought about it and I told him, I said, when we were first on the show, you sang a theme song and I thought it was awful. So I decided to write you something new. And he looks at me, he goes, I wrote that song.
The chance to entertain weekly in a popular upscale restaurant and lounge in the heart of Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn, was quite an achievement for the band. And even though they never offered the boys a meal during breaks, they often found themselves making a quick run across the street to Rollin' Roaster. Best roast beef and fries in Brooklyn, if you ask me.
The Barge was a tremendous restaurant. I remember when I was young, my parents had brought me there, and they had a lounge. When I saw the lounge and I saw the musicians playing, I said to myself, one day I'd like to be up there.
The Barge was a beautiful restaurant overlooking the water, beautiful place to have dinner.
And it was an intimate place, and people danced, and it was nice when people got up and danced to our music, and it was a fun time.
So my best memory of playing the Barge was they had a comedian, and they had a very famous guy named Morty Storm. And Morty Storm, from what I understand, he played Atlantic City, he played Vegas, he opened for Sinatra, he killed. From what I hear, this guy was a major comedian back in the day.
What I remember most about the Barge is probably this comedian. His name was Morty Storm, and he was a funny guy. I mean, if you like that kind of humor, I still use some of his jokes now.
He had a good show, but in a place like this, the people were coming to eat. So he would do his show, and then an hour later, he would come back and do the same exact show.
Morty Storm didn't do very well every single time he performed. And it was sad, you know, he'd be running around and he would be all full of energy and he'd run around the restaurant and he'd be telling jokes and blah, blah, blah. And the people were basically looking at him cross-eyed.
We used to go across the street to Roland Roaster to have a bite to eat. It was too pricey to eat at the restaurant where we played with all the King's Men. So what we did was we went in there and ordered food, and the cash register would have a microphone, and Stevie would grab the microphone sometimes and start singing, "Everybody loves my body sometime." It just brought the house down, and that was in the restaurant.
That was another place that was a party place, a lot of dancing, and we met a lot of really well-to-do and famous people there as well.
The band's second appearance on Stairway to Stardom was memorable, mostly because Sal, the drummer, couldn't make it. Since the boys knew they would be lip-syncing on this episode, to fill in on drums, they thought it would be fun to enlist the help of a little mechanical toy drummer, who just happened to have a mind of its own.
The second appearance on Stairway to Stardom, I have to tell you, that was my favorite appearance, because I felt that's when I did my best on that show.
I really don't remember the second time much. You know, it was pretty much similar to the first time, where just some of the acts were just so terrible.
For our second appearance, we had no drummer, and I couldn't honestly tell you why we had no drummer. I guess either Sal had left the band or wasn't able to do it. So I had the brilliant idea of bringing a toy drummer, you know, like one of these little clink, clink, clink drummers.
Sal couldn't make it to the taping, so Ben decided to take a toy drummer and put it on top of the piano. Well, here we go. Halfway through the song, the toy drummer decides to take a trip off the piano, which left me breaking up to no end. And I tried to stop the taping, not realizing there was no stopping the taping.
On the stairway to stardom, you'll see tomorrow's stars today. On the stairway to stardom, we're here to brighten up your day. We got sing.
The most memorable thing of the second show was when the little mechanical drummer fell off my keyboard, and just trying not to break into hysterical laughter. And I'm 100% sure that I was not successful at that, because I thought that was the funniest thing in the world, to be playing and playing and playing and watching this drummer as it gets ready and then falls off the piano. So that's kind of my best memory of the second episode we appeared on.
In the 1980s, if you were a gigging band in Brooklyn, then Bay Ridge was the place to be. Steve and the boys played all the biggest nightclubs there, like the Brown Derby and Ernie Barry's. But they found a home base for many years in one particular club that was in the center of all the action. It was called the Loft.
Bay Ridge was the party capital of Brooklyn. John Travolta had just made Saturday Night Fever and started a whole dance craze. And the people in Brooklyn just loved it.
The biggest thing I remember about the Loft was climbing up this thing with our equipment, my amp, and like, oh God, it was a pain in the ass to set up there. But it was a regular gig, and people danced and enjoyed us, and it was a nice time.
They had a metal rung ladder that went up to a 10-foot stage that was 2 tiers. We would have to climb up this small metal rung ladder with all the equipment just to get up to the stage, and then get all the drums to the second level.
The first 10 feet, one plateau, and then to the next plateau, another 10 feet. And that's where I was. You didn't want nothing to fall out of your hands because it would hit the crowd underneath you.
The only problem for me was I would do different characters. I would do an Elvis show where I would put on the suit, go through all the moves. And let me tell you something, I had to be very careful because there were a couple of times when I threw a couple of kicks and ended up almost going right off that 10-foot stage. And God knows what would have happened from there.
The guy who was in danger was Steve, and it was really dangerous for him because Steve likes to move, he likes to dance when he's singing, he likes to do all this stuff, and he likes to be out front. Well, he is out front. And there was no railing on the top tier there. So if he took a misstep, he would kill himself. I mean, not trying to be funny, he would die. If he took a misstep, he would land on a huge grand piano that was on the main level.
The people were great to hang out with, and we made a lot of friends. People would come in after they finished working at their restaurants or the gigs that they were doing and come over there to hang out. That's how popular the place was. We also had the editor-in-chief of the local newspaper used to come in and do articles about us, come to see us. We became friends. He would bring people over there that were unbelievable, people that you would never think you would see. He once walked in with Jake LaMotta. Later on, Jake LaMotta's ex-wife, Vicky LaMotta, would end up coming in. Also, there would be all kinds of different celebrities, like the people that would end up being in Goodfellas, The Sopranos. We got to meet all these people. I'll tell you, I was a little bit starstruck. But the times we had were just incredible.
Another memory from the Loft, we had a saxophone player, and the saxophone player was amazing. And I don't mean to throw that word around. This guy, Rick DePafi, he was a Berklee College of Music graduate, and he was the best that I've ever heard before or since. And so we had a saxophone in the band, and we would play and we would play. Now, keep in mind, I'd been playing with Steve for quite a few years at that point, and we're playing all the same songs, and I'm getting bored. I mean, we're doing New York, New York again, and we're doing Feelings again, and we're doing these same tunes. The Elvis set, we're doing it again and again and again. Night after night, we're working 2 nights a week, 3 nights a week, whatever. So one night, I'm just messing around, and I'm kind of messing. You know, I was just so tired of playing these same tunes that I'm just playing them in some weird and strange ways, you know? And Rick, this is a true story, Rick took a drink and he started slowly pouring it on my keyboard, like very slowly. And I knocked it away and I said, "What are you doing?" And he said to me, he said, "What are you doing?" And I totally got it in that moment. What are you doing? This guy was a musician. He was not going to put up with me screwing around with the tunes. He wanted me to play as well as I can play and not make a mess on the keyboard. So that is a memory from the Loft.
We would play music, basically all the disco songs, and watch these people go crazy dancing. It was such a wonderful time to see people just enjoying themselves so much doing it.
Back in the summer of 1983, imagine the excitement Steve and the band felt when they accompanied a star who had multiple hit records, as well as popular appearances on all the biggest talk shows of the day. That star? The indescribable Tiny Tim. Indescribable indeed.
We had been asked to do a fundraiser for a volunteer ambulance company in our neighborhood.
I used to deliver for the pharmacy in our neighborhood, and so the guy got to know me. He knew I was a musician, so he goes, hey, can you get some guys together, or you have a band, to back up Tiny Tim, because he's going to come to the neighborhood.
The headliner was Tiny Tim, and you may not know Tiny Tim, but Tiny Tim was, let's just say, an eccentric kind of entertainer.
No one really came to our neighborhood. It was a little. I lived in Bensonhurst, and it was a big thing. So the band set up in front of the drugstore, and there was like the whole neighborhood was it. It was like it was like 200 people there, and or more. And so Tiny Tim, we were sitting, and I go, what does this play? I mean, I knew like Tiptoe Through the Tulips. That's about it.
And he played the ukulele. He played this little ukulele, which is kind of popular today, but back then it wasn't. But he played the ukulele, he sang in a really super high voice, which I won't imitate and embarrass everybody, or embarrass myself. We met with Tiny Tim like a minute or two before he was gonna go on. And he said, I remember, he said to me, he goes, just follow me. He said, what key we're in? And he said, just follow me. Now, keep in mind, this is the middle of summer. It must have been 100 degrees. We were outdoors. We're all sweating, and it's like really just the heat. And Tiny Tim gets up there, and he starts playing at about this speed. And he starts singing songs like Over There, Over There. And then he starts singing stuff, I'm a Yankee Doodle Dandy, Yankee Doodle Doodle.
His whole set was patriotic songs, and so I kind of muddled my way through that, because I think I knew like 4 chords back then, and we did it. Of course, Ben saved the day, because he knew how to back this guy up. I was like, oh God, thank God we got him.
Over and over, songs, and this just kept up. This was going and going and going and going. And I'm sweating, and Lou is sweating, and Tiny Tim is sweating. And I don't know how long this medley of patriotic songs went on for, but we were all dying. We were all dying.
Tiny went up to sing his songs. In the middle of his signature song, which was Tiptoe Through the Tulips. That was my favorite song of his. All of a sudden, the power went out. Tiny didn't miss a beat. He kept on singing through it until the song was finished. There couldn't be a nicer, gentler man. I can remember that we had a photo shoot with him. And it was me, Tiny, and there was a little girl there. Her name was Deborah Gibson. That's right, Debbie Gibson.
It was fun. It was fun working with Mr. Tim.
The Catskills, an area in upstate New York, was known in its heyday for high-end summer resort hotels. It offered entertainment on the highest level. One can only imagine the prestige of gigging in the Catskills back in the 1940s, 50s, and even 60s. Of course, by the 1980s, when all the King's men played there weekly, the Catskill Mountains were more like Catskill molehills.
All right, so the Catskills was a lot of fun time. I mean, I spent summers as a child in the Catskills, so it wasn't, it wasn't a big stretch for me, and I always wanted to be like the band that played like, at the pool on Sundays and played at the show on Saturday night, and lo and behold, here I am.
The Catskills, Kiamisha Lake. What a gig that was. We would have to drive upstate every weekend. It was a bungalow colony. Now, they weren't like real bungalows, because some of these people were judges, lawyers, and big people in society, and they built these nice little houses on this property.
For a couple of summers, we had an agent, a Catskills agent, a real throwback to what I imagine is the 1950s and the 1960s, you know, which was the height of the Catskills and the Borscht Belt. When we played the Catskills, it was not the height of anything. Everything was on the decline, going down, 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 way down. And we didn't book the high-end places like the Concord. We booked bungalow colonies, and bungalow colonies are like these wooden shacks that people would spend their summers in. And, you know, they had a pool and, you know, everybody was happy. But I guess it was the poor man's fine hotel, let's say.
And but we got the gig through this like slimy promoter agent named Bill Lasky, and I mean he was a nice guy I guess, but he would walk around with like posters of like strippers under his arm.
Fast talking guy was always trying to talk us out of something. A real kibitzer, they would call him.
So one bungalow colony in particular, we worked it every weekend. We would go up to Nob Hill, Kiamisha Lake, and we played for the crowds. And they loved it, they enjoyed it. But the agent would also book a singer or a comedian or sometimes, and this was the funniest part, a stripper or strippers. So because like I say, our agent was a throwback, and back in the day, comedians and singers and strippers, this was all part of the entertainment package.
I remember one gig, we had a stripper, and Ben, who was, I don't know, maybe 18, 19 years old, if that, had to rehearse with this stripper, and he was like, he was sweating. I mean, he was so shy.
And then there were their strippers. And let me tell you something. Some of these people that came in, it was kind of funny to us because they would walk in looking like normal people in frumpy clothing, and you were like saying to yourself, my God, this is a stripper? And then they would get up on that stage and put on a show that was incredible.
Another one was a mother and son stripper that we did, and he was dressed up like Dracula, and he would take women under his cape, the wives of these guys, you know.
Yes, a mother and son. The mother would go out and do her show, and the son would come out and do his.
And the men, of course, you know, they would like pass around like flashlights or something and look under the stripper's skirt or something. It was wild. It was wild, and I was part of it, and it was fun.
The agent would sometimes book a singer, and these were singers that were used to performing at the Concord and the Nevele and the Falls View and Browns, you know, all the major hotels. So the major hotels had an orchestra. They always had an orchestra or a big band. They had horns and strings and brass and woodwinds, aside from the piano, bass, and drums. Our band, we had the piano, which I played the bass to, we had guitar, and we had a drummer. And that's all we had.
And they would hand Ben and Louie charts for a whole orchestra, which they really weren't prepared to do, nor that we thought that we were obligated to be a part of.
They would give me the orchestral score. And for anyone who doesn't know, an orchestral score is basically one big blob of sheet music with the trumpets and the saxophones and the trombones and the strings, and as well as the drums and the piano and the bass. And my experience in reading an orchestral score is like none. I mean, I had no experience. The only course I ever got a C in music in college was in conducting, and that had to do with orchestral scores. So I couldn't read an orchestral score. Lou could not read an orchestral score, I could tell you that. And sometimes they would send the singer to the bungalow colony with a conductor.
We played with this woman, and I remember she had a conductor, and the conductor had some kind of mole on his elbow. And when he conducted, it swung back and forth. I could not pay attention. We could barely read these musical charts anyway. They were from like 1920, and some of them were like, I don't even know how we made it through the show.
So they would have a conductor, and the conductor would be looking at me, and mostly me and Lou, not the drummer particularly, we'd be looking at us, and first of all, we would see this music maybe 10 minutes before the singer would come out and do their show, and we're the accompaniment. I'm looking at the score, Lou's looking at the score, and we're looking cross-eyed because too much music. I mean, you can all, and if I just looked at the piano part, the conductor wouldn't hear what the trumpets do and what the saxophones do and what the strings do. So, if the guy's singing and he expects to hear, bop, bop, ba, da, bop, well, that stuff's not in the piano score. That stuff would be in the horns or the brass or the strings or whatever. So it was pretty funny because Lou and I would look at the music, we would start the songs, and we would be lost within about 10 seconds. We'd both be looking at each other cross-eyed like, do you have any idea where we are? Because I have no idea. So at this one bungalow colony that we played, they were nice enough to let us sleep over because we finished playing about 3 in the morning, and driving those Catskill roads at 3 a.m., no fun, actually quite dangerous. So they let us stay over. They gave us a bungalow to stay in, which was great.
And they put us up in some dilapidated bungalow.
This room was a decrepit room.
It kind of needed to be condemned. I remember the floor slanting. I remember the shower head drip, 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 drip the whole night. This bungalow was filthy, dirty, disgusting, rust and mold and horrific. So we spent one night there, and from then on, I would drive home no matter what.
7 years after initially appearing on Stairway, Steve and the band once again climbed that stairway to stardom, this time hoping their performance would provoke a call from the booking agents at Late Night with David Letterman. I believe the band, to this day, is still waiting for that elusive call.
In our third appearance, Sal had left the band, so we had gotten another drummer to do the show with us.
Our new drummer, Steve Corsi, amazing, an amazingly talented drummer.
I was a big fan of the Late Night with David Letterman show, so I wrote a song called Wanna Be on Late Night, hoping that at some time somebody would hear it and we'd get on that show. But that never happened.
Wanna be on late night, cause the scene is really cool. Wanna be on late night, I might even play the fool. The pet tricks might be stupid, but Melman is the best. Wanna be on late night, wanna be on late night, wanna be on late night, wanna be Dave's favorite guest. Oh yeah.
The only problem was we were still lip syncing, and for an accomplished drummer to lip sync to a track, I can tell you that when we finished our third appearance, he said to me, he goes, never again, I will never lip sync again. That was awful.
We also met another performer on that show who was a very talented guy, great impressionist. This guy was actually the Sandman at the Showtime at the Apollo show. He was the guy that would take the big hook and pull the people off stage if they weren't good.
As the band began to play fewer clubs and more weddings, they soon realized they were missing something, or more specifically, someone.
I wanted to add a female singer to the band because all the other bands had one. We needed somebody to do duets with because most of the wedding songs and a lot of songs were duets at the time.
They wanted to hear Endless Love, and these duets really don't sound good when Steve is singing both the male and the female parts. Or, you know, I Will Survive, which is not a duet, but a really female song, but it was such a huge hit back in the day that we got constant requests for the song, and Steve hated singing I Will Survive. And it was kind of funny hearing him sing that lyric about a desperate woman who's gonna stand up and survive the horrible things in life.
Beautiful Bedelia. She came in, I was teaching at this music school in Brooklyn, and she came in and she was, you know, a pretty little young girl at the time, and she had a crush on me.
I was dating Steve's brother, and he asked me to come down and sing a song with the band. And I remember singing with the band for the first time, and they asked me if I wanted to be the girl singer in All the King's Men.
To get gigs for weddings, we had to do these kind of auditions, and they called them showcasing. And it wasn't just one band usually, it was like 2 or 3 bands that you were competing with to try to get these couples to try to book you.
Nervousness is through the roof. I mean, at least the way I felt about it, because everybody that comes out is looking at you. They're looking at you, the piano player, they're looking at the singer, they're looking at the drummer, they're looking at the other bands, and they're comparing. They're saying, now which band do I really want for my wedding? Which one's gonna do the best job?
I felt like everybody was judging, and it made me nervous.
Showcasing for weddings. Oh, that was one of my favorite things. No, honestly, I hated it.
Still couldn't stand showcasing. I don't think anybody loved it.
So you had to get out there, and you had to smile, and you had to look like you're having fun, and which is not my forte in life, is to be making music and you know, faking a smile. So and in the meantime, just a bundle of nerves. I mean, just a bundle of nerves.
We were doing weddings at some of the biggest catering halls around. I mean, you name the place, we did it.
I love doing them. I love doing the duets with Steve. We did many duets. My favorite duet to sing with the band was Just You and I. Steve loved that song by Eddie Rabbitt and Crystal Gale.
So the most important thing at a wedding, probably for the band, is the wedding song. The bride and groom get up, they do their first dance. Huge thing. And if the bride and groom pick a song that we knew or that we know, perfect, because we knew a whole bunch of songs, a whole bunch of popular songs. Pick one that the band knows. But there were plenty of times when the bride and groom would give us the name of their wedding song and we didn't know it. And if we didn't know it, they didn't know that they were in trouble, because we were not too conscientious about learning it. I could tell you that. There were some times, you know, if you can get the music at Sam Ash, if you can get the music at the music store, fine. But sometimes you would go to the music store and it wasn't there. And again, this is before the internet and you can just download a PDF, 1, 2, 3. No, if Sam Ash didn't have it, you were in trouble. And we were in trouble lots of times. So I could remember driving to a wedding with Steve and his boombox tape recorder playing the wedding song, and we're trying to learn it as I'm driving. I'm trying to pick up this wedding song. I remember, I must have been a day before a particular wedding, I remember Steve calling in to a radio station requesting it and trying to get his request through so that we can record it, so that we can learn it.
We would play for a myriad of orchestras, and from time to time, they would ask us to fill in for a group that might not be able to make it to a certain wedding. So this one particular time, we were asked to fill in for this Italian wedding. Most of the jobs that we did were Italian. We were from Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, and I knew Italian songs, but there were some obscure Italian songs on a list that was given me just the night before the party. So I decided I was going to do O Solo Mio, but the version It's Now or Never that Elvis Presley did. was the same song. So to be cute, I thought that I would do a medley of the two songs and put the words to O Solo Mio in the middle of the song. Well, after the song was finished, the bride's father came walking over to me. Big guy. Big and scary guy. He walks up to me and says, "You know, you're filling in for the band that was supposed to be here. I gave a list of songs. I didn't hear any of the Italian songs that I wanted to hear on that list."
So Steve looked over the list, and the only song he had a possibility of doing was a song called Funiculi Funicula. Now, I think he knew the chorus part of the song, and maybe he knew the melody, but he didn't know the lyrics. So he replaced the lyrics by just singing la la la. And then every time we got to the chorus, he would sing Funiculi Funicula, or whatever the melody is, and I would follow along, and everything was kind of groovy. When we finished playing Funiculi Funicula, the father comes right up to Steve, looks him right in the eye and says, "Now sing it in Italian." Scared the hell out of Steve. When the father turned around to leave, Steve comes right over to me, he says, "If anyone's looking for me, tell them you don't know where I am." And gone. Steve is gone from the stage, and we're just left there, the band.
I knew I was in trouble. So right away, when we had a break, I dragged Ben into the next room, and we started going over on tape Luciano Pavarotti, his version of Funiculi Funicula. Now, my grand design idea was I really didn't have to learn all the words. If I sing in that deep voice like he had, I can maybe get away with it. So here we go. We go into the next room. In the next set, we start playing. We play Funiculi Funicula. I'm dying, hoping it goes over well. All of a sudden, the song is over. Everybody danced. The man starts coming, walking over to me. And I'm saying, "Stephen, here it goes." He walked up to me and said, "Hey, kid, now that's the way to sing Italian." I tell you, I sweat a bullet, and it was something I never forgot.
Back in the early 1990s, booking a television appearance was pure gold for entertainers. And when the band got an invitation to appear on the United Cerebral Palsy Telethon, they saw an opportunity to garner exposure to a nationwide audience. It felt like their big break had finally arrived.
We got a spot on the UCP Teleathon, national television, and I will say there's nothing scarier than the thought of being on national TV.
The night before we did the telethon was the wedding I talked about before, where the guy wanted me to sing in Italian. So I was already nerved up.
I think we were on like a 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and we had a lot of equipment that we were taking with us.
And now we had to drive all the way to the city to go to CBS Studios. This was something that we were looking forward to so much. We get to the city and we got to the entrance, and right away in the hallway we see Florence Henderson, a legend to me, from the Brady Bunch, in a big white fur coat. Now I'm saying, oh my God, the stars are here already. We're making it. Here we go. We started going into the door, and Florence Henderson turned around and said, Why are these people coming in this entrance? And I said, no, we were told to come here by our agent. I'm sorry. And she said, they can't come in this entrance. They're supposed to come in the other way.
And we walk in and we see Florence Henderson. And Florence Henderson said, oh no, you cannot take these equipment, you have to go around the block. And we had to schlep all our equipment. It was enough, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning and we're ready to go on and like soon. We had to schlep our stuff all the way around the corner.
Well, I turned around to Florence Henderson and I said, Florence, that was very un-Brady-like. And that's when she flipped out and said, I don't have to deal with this. But I was heartbroken, I have to tell you. Never thought from somebody like that it would be coming out of her mouth like this.
Yeah, I don't remember much of it. Do you remember that? The Florence Henderson, she was a bitch?
Our performance on the UCP Teleathon, scary. I mean, it scared the hell out of me. This was national television. It was our first time, and I guess our last time on national television, and nothing could be scarier than that. I mean, the millions of people watching, which is kind of funny because we ended up performing, I think it was about 5 a.m. on a Sunday. Nobody was watching.
I remember being so nervous at the telethon. I couldn't control my nervousness. Steve told me there was no reason to be nervous. He said, I've done this 1,000 times. But once the music started, he gave me a big smile, and off I was to the races.
While in the dressing room, we started cramming to learn a song that I wrote the night before so we can do an original song to take our shot. While we were learning it, all of a sudden comes walking through the door of our dressing room. It's Bobby Vinton, the great Bobby Vinton.
I also remember meeting Scott Baio, who was at the telethon that day, and we were sharing a room before we went on.
It was Stephen Bedelia. So we had our A team, we had a bass player, so we had a full sounding band. And you know, when I watched the footage of it, at least the videotape of it, I think we were really good.
Come on, we're gonna rock and roll all night. Come on, we're gonna make you feel alright. Come on, we're gonna make you leave your seat. We're gonna make you move your feet when you get down to the beat. Thank you.
I remember being scared shitless when I was up there. I think I was out of tune, but whatever. We did it and it was fun.
The telethon was a lot of fun.
The telethon was a great experience for me. I mean, they treated you really well. They had me go into makeup with one of the local newscasters. I really felt like somebody. I mean, it was incredible. What an experience.
Over the years, All the King's Men grew from being a local bar and restaurant band to an exciting club and party band, and finally, a highly profitable wedding band. So with all that going for them, one question remains. Why did they break up?
Over the years, All the King's Men played lots and lots of weddings. But we were working for someone else. And while we were paid pretty good, the people we were working for, the ones who ran the showcasing, they were making tons. So if I was making, say, $200 to play a wedding, they were charging $6, definitely, just for the pianist alone. And at some point we decided, why are they making all the money? Why don't we do that? We could run our own showcases, we could book our own gigs, and we could make the lion's share of the money.
There was an opportunity put in front of us to join into a wedding center.
They sold tuxedos, they rented limousines, they had florists, the whole 9 yards. If you were getting married, that was the place to go, and you can choose. And now they had us as their band.
So I remember going down to a lawyer with Ben, and the first thing this lawyer said to us, he goes, "The music business, shit business." And I thought to myself, okay, well, yeah, all right, but I'm gonna still, do this.
The only problem was, and I knew this going into it, that it was almost an impossible situation unless you had an established business already. The expenses were just off the roof. When you're in a wedding center, or at least in this circumstance, there were expenses for the changing of the window, for flyers, for shows that they put on, showcasing, for everything that could come up. It got to the point the expenses were so much, and we weren't bringing in that kind of money.
I remember borrowing $1,000 from my dad, which I paid back monthly. I think, after I still owed him a couple $100, I said, just forget it. But all right, but we put up some money, and at that time it was a lot of money, for a kid to put up. And so we run our first showcase, and it was successful. I remember we booked a few weddings from that. The second time around that we did a showcase, I said, I really don't want to do it there. They have a house band, and I don't feel good about inviting a lot of people and maybe getting screwed out of it. And what happened was, the guy who was the house band there ran his showcase on the same night that we were supposed to do it. And of course, all our hard-working clients came to there. I was done.
So here's where we get to why I think the band broke up. And I think it's pretty simple. Money kept going out, and money was not coming in, or it certainly wasn't coming in fast enough. I think the problem was the leads. I think you would get lists of brides and grooms getting ready to get married, and you would call, and you would call, and you would call, and try to get them to come to a showcase. The problem was the leads that we got were old. They were old, like in the movie Glengarry Glen Ross, they're just old leads. And what you need are fresh leads. You need people who have walked into a catering hall. They need to see a sign when they go into catering hall. We recommend the Steve Lewis orchestras, and that gives you a certain panache, or whatever the word would be, and that gives you a certain stature. And then if they come to that catering hall and you're the house band, you have a really good chance of getting that booking and booking that wedding.
So we couldn't meet the expenses. It just got to be too much. It got to the point where I had to hide out, because every time I walked into the office, they would ask me for more money and more money for this, and that. And we didn't have it to give them. Eventually, it got to the point where there was a lot of friction amongst the members of the band because of everything that was going on. That's what ended up to the end of the band, was the fact that there just wasn't any money to do it, and everybody just wanted to go their separate ways.
We now fast forward to the new millennium, where Stairway to Stardom was just a distant memory. At that time, no one could have predicted that clips of the show would one day go viral on YouTube. Fortunately, two friends who believed Stairway needed to live on and be shared with the world obtained tapes of the show and posted them online. These friends were Mitch Friedman and Doug Miller. Stairway soon became a cult hit, with viewership growing and growing. But even before the advent of YouTube, Mitch and Doug fostered a growing underground community of fans for Stairway by putting together compilations of Stairway episodes and clips. Their compilations were soon dubbed and traded by fans, fueling the show's newly found popularity. Exposure to Stairway was further enhanced through media coverage on NPR and independent radio station WFMU. Recognizing the growing fandom of Stairway, creative media producer Ryan Junell put together an evening of Stairway to Stardom themed entertainment in the back room of a trendy Brooklyn restaurant, with large screens playing old Stairway clips. Additionally, there were live performances from various Stairway acts of yesteryear. And since All the King's Men was the one band that not only appeared multiple times, but also wrote and recorded the iconic disco theme song, how could this event be complete without a performance by them?
We had gotten a call to do what they called a tribute show to Stairway to Stardom in a club in Williamsburg. It was called Monkey Town.
So the Stairway to Stardom show that we did at Monkey Town, that was the very first time that I realized how big Stairway to Stardom was becoming.
I got a call from Ben one day saying that this guy, I don't know, time capsuled our videos and stuff, and he's putting together some event in Brooklyn, that, people knew us from this really bad variety show on Manhattan Cable.
It was a club that had 4 screens, one on each wall. And the people would come there and watch the show, and they asked us to do a live performance there, sort of as a reunion, and we did it, and it was amazing to me.
We got a call to do the gig, and fans of All the King's Men, who ever heard of something so ridiculous? But yeah, so lots of fans for Stairway to Stardom, and big screens showing us playing on the show, and they had these bubblegum cards with our names on it and our pictures on it.
And I remember walking into the place. It wasn't, it wasn't like thousands, but there was a good amount of people there. And someone calls out my name, and I was like, this is wild. This show was so bad. But here we are, and people are like, they have these cards made up and posters and all kinds of things.
Video clips from the show on these huge screens, and people would be sitting in the pit and looking up at these huge screens. And this was all in Williamsburg, which is a very hip and trendy kind of neighborhood. So that was an eye-opener. That was an amazing thing to see.
To see the interest that this thing that we did close to 40 years ago garnered. People would come up to us before and after asking us to autograph stuff. I never thought in a million years that I would see such interest from something like this. And I appreciate all the people who came out and all the people who show the interest in this. And we thank you.
10 years after that first All the King's Men Stairway reunion, with Stairway's popularity continuing to grow, another retrospective was put together, this time by Eric Bressler as part of the Cynadelphia Film Festival. Once again, Steve, Ben, and Lou reunited at the venue to watch clips of Stairway, as well as perform live for an audience of Stairway fans. Best of all, they could once again simply reconnect with each other and reminisce about the old days.
So our second All the King's Men reunion, it was in Philadelphia. It was a big Stairway to Stardom retrospective. And they showed clips from the show on a big screen, and we got up there, All the King's Men got up there, and we played our songs and stuff.
We went to Philadelphia, and there was a big theater. A lot of people there looking to see this retrospective. I couldn't believe it. How many people really had the interest?
I was starting to transition at the time, and I wasn't out completely. It was supposed to be like this, band, boys, but I remember being scared shitless about that. But once I settled down and we got to play some music, and I enjoyed myself, and it was a lot of fun.
We met some nice people. I talked to people from England. People from all over the world and all over the country had interest in this.
What I remember most, there are two things I remember most. First of all, the song Hairdresser, and I had never seen the song before. And I was crying hysterical tears listening to this song all about this woman's hairdresser and tease me, please me, please me. The second thing I remember is, I think it was after we performed, after all the King's Men did their songs and stuff, we were interviewed, and we were interviewed by this puppet rat called Ratso.
We had an interview with him. It was the first time I was ever interviewed by a puppet. And let me tell you something, he couldn't be in a nicer time.
You have the greatest singing voice. I love your voice. And you write such good songs, and your band played so good. I'm so excited to meet you. Do you have any messages to the kids who are watching?
I have to say, kids, if you have a dream, never let anybody tell you you can't do it. Go for your dream, kids.
Go for your dreams. You can talk to a puppet in 30 years from now. It's incredible.
That's what I'm talking about.
Let's watch all the King's Men. Thank you. You're the best. Yay!
Thank you, Ratso. We love you.
We love you.
That was a first. I'm sure it was a first for Steve and Lou. It was a first for me to be interviewed by a hand puppet. And but the interview was really good, and we just enjoyed ourselves. So Philadelphia was just a blast.
On that stairway to stardom, on the stairway to stardom. Thank you. God bless you all. Enjoy the show. All the King's Men, everybody.
A third All the King's Men reunion came together in a most unusual way. An original and unique tribute to Stairway to Stardom was staged in Manhattan, New York. It was written, directed, and choreographed by Amanda Saglaski, founder of Cakeface. For the premiere of the Stairway to Stardom Cakeface show, Amanda reached out to all the King's Men to perform for the opening night after party. And once again, the boys jumped at yet another opportunity to reunite, reminisce, and make music.
The Cakeface show, which had a lot of dancing and a lot of spoken word, made you think. I think that was the purpose of the whole thing, was to make you think about all the performers on Stairway and what their hopes and dreams were.
The premise was, what would the people that were on Stairway to Stardom be saying now, what they had accomplished, and what their experience was on the show?
They took the Stairway to Stardom kind of idea, and they kind of made it into this weird dance, avant-garde thing. And I'm watching this, and with my bandmates and my ex-wife, and we're like, what the hell is this? And there was some clips they were playing, from the Stairway to Stardom show, like on the stage and stuff.
It was just a thought-provoking kind of show, very interesting and exciting, by the way, but really well done.
To make it means that you've made it already. There's no future you are waiting for or building for. It means it is now. This is the life.
Making it is having a washing machine and a dryer in my apartment.
Ultimately, I think you've made it if you're happy.
A maid, a wine cellar, a nanny, a car, and when I own a picnic basket.
So yeah, definitely. If you're happy and content in life, you've made it. Because you must be doing something right if you're happy. So that's making it.
When the show was over, all the dancers in the show, they came up and danced while Steve and I and Lou, we played our music, and it was just like an after party. It was one big party, and we had a blast in Manhattan.
And the rap party was great. We played music, and they danced the rest of the night away.
So we've learned about occasional All the King's Men reunions over the past decade or so. But what has each member of the band been doing since they broke up way back in the 1990s? Here's a little update.
Well, after the band broke up, it took a little time. I ended up joining a band out in Long Island.
I taught in the New York City public schools. I taught music. elementary school music for over 25 years, and these days I'm retired.
I always wanted to do a solo act, and every once in a while I get a call to play with a band. But my favorite thing to do is just doing my thing. You know, I love singing, I love playing my guitar, I love doing like playing solo guitar and some classical guitar, and I'm getting the opportunity to do it now.
Being in the band, always being in the bar scene, I saw how much they make. So after leaving the band, I opened up an adult entertainment place called Wiggles.
After the band broke up, I was working with rainbow orchestras for about 35 plus years. Then I went on to BKS, another band doing clubs. And that's when I met Michael Alfredo, the guitar player for BKS, and we decided to leave that band and do an acoustic trio.
And basically I just did shows with other bands, DJs, and eventually I would do parties myself where I would sing live shows and DJ myself.
I opened up a sports bar in Bay Ridge and opened up another location called Party Dolls. It was a luncheonette up front, and in the back it was topless.
I love writing musicals and musical comedies, so I've been doing that.
I was doing this all along while I was working for the city at the time, and actually when I was working with the bands, I was making more money on the weekends than I was making with my government job, but they both helped me raise my family.
We branched off to doing a classic rock band that we're still presently doing, called Kismet. And if you'd like to come and hear us, come on down to Staten Island.
I played piano in a steakhouse in Bay Ridge. I played for over 10 years there. And these days I'm kind of enjoying making films, making little movies and documentaries, like the one you're watching now.
And it was tough at first, after I transitioned, to go back to places that I used to play. And lo and behold, a lot of places hired me back, and it really didn't matter. All right, some didn't, but that's the way it goes. 10 no's get you closer to a yes.
After the bars, I got into a union to drive hearses and limousines. I spent about 20 years doing that. I was a hearse driver. Very rewarding business, being there for people in their time that they need people there to understand.
And everything worked out pretty well. You see, what I had behind me as well is I was working in the electrical industry with the electrical union for about 45 years. And just a couple of years ago, I retired.
It was an amazing period of time. Good guys you worked with, very good people, great experience. Wouldn't trade it for the world.
So it was a nice run, very nice run. And I can't say that I would do much differently. We had a good time together.
And just like old times, the band came together to celebrate in song. And soon, it became clear to everyone that climbing the stairway to stardom might be a goal best left in the past. Because when you think about it, sharing precious memories and celebrating lifelong friendships has always been what All the King's Men was all about.